All right, we are live, Lee. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, I am excited to talk with you today, Mr. Lee Garland. We're going to be talking with. He's the number one team in the state of Mississippi. You can see some of his other accolades scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. And we're going to talk even more about that when we come back. So hold tight. We'll be right back. Whoops. So just hold tight. I was not quite ready. See, that's what happens when you're live. You just, it just flow. You just flow with it. But anyway, Lee, I'm excited to have you today, and I thank you so much for your time. Like you're so awesome and just so busy too.
Yeah.
So let's start out, Lee. Why don't you give us a highlight? The highlight reel, or it doesn't be the highlights. It could be the good, bad, the ugly of your real estate career. How long you've been in. Just give us an overview of your real estate journey so far.
Okay, sure. Thanks for having me today, Kathy. I'm excited about doing this. And a little bit about me is I joke about it all the time. I'm a small town kid from Canton, Mississippi, and when I got in the real estate business, all of my friends said, "Oh, Lee, you'll never make it in real estate." They thought I didn't like people, and the truth is, I was just shy. But got into the real estate business in 1996, straight out of EMS. Never sold anything in my life. I used to work on an ambulance downtown Jackson, and got my real estate license in 1996, and so I've been around for 26 years now as of September. So 26 years now, and I don't know. I've done a lot of things wrong. Apparently, I've got a few things right, and as scrolling across the screen there, I've been responsible for over 10,000 transactions and $1 billion worth of sales. And I've got a few plaques and stuff that every time I take them to Kroger or the Winn-Dixie, they won't let me buy groceries with them. That's me.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so a couple of things I want to say about that. So you were humble with that. You've been doing real estate for a long time, but not only do we have what's scrolling across the page here, but you were in the top 50 teams, really closer to like 25, 30 for all of ReMax, which has 140,000 agents, right? You got, eight recruiter of the year, you got realtor of the year, you got broker owner of the year, you've got instructor of the year. Like those are some pretty big plaques, if you will, that don't buy your groceries that you have accumulated. And that's just to name a few things, right? I could go on, but you're very humble. And I was telling you the other day, when we talked, I don't know any agent. I mean, I've been around this industry for a long time myself, 24 years. I don't know any agent that has sold, or been responsible for 10,000 sales. Like that's incredible. Like so incredible. Especially when the average agent, according to NAR, sells 6 houses a year. Okay. So 6 houses, multiply that times your year, that wouldn't even put you at 100, 125 houses, let alone 10,000.
It's yeah, I don't know if I got lucky. I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's because I worked really hard. I was first in, last out, and I learned very early on in my career that you needed to leverage your time, and listings were where it was at, where the business was at. So I was very strong listing agent throughout the years, and but you know, I my first year in the business, I can remember I did 32 transactions.
That's great.
And then the second year, I broke 50. And uh, lo and behold, my third year, 70% of my business came from referrals of those past transactions. and or repeat business from those past transactions. And then it blossomed.
Yeah.
It just blossomed. And
That's
so,
incredible. So I want to go back to something that you said when you were kind of talking about your first few years. People said you wouldn't be successful and, for whatever reasons they thought, but you just knew, yourself that you were just shy, And so I think, I want you to talk a little bit more to that, because I think sometimes agents may, they all think, oh, if I'm not this big or extrovert, then I can't be successful. And, quite honestly, I think the industry even teaches that, like it, or tells us that without maybe being so overt about it. But a lot of people may be introvert, they may be shy, right? But you got over that. So what would you say to those agents that are listening about how did you get over that? And how would you encourage them? Like, don't let that be a label on yourself that holds you back.
yeah, it's really interesting. I've got two paths I'm going to take here. One is when I got in the business, my best friend got in the business at the time as well. He was that outgoing personality. He's the guy, when he walked into the room, everybody gravitated towards him. He went to work for one company. I went to work for another company. And he's the one that should have been successful. But what happened was he got stuck in the books and stuck in the getting ready to get ready mode. And I just got my hands dirty. I just went to work. And what happened was we were playing racquetball one day, and I sold 3 houses while we're playing racquetball. And he looked at me, it's like, how did you do that? I said, well, while you've been getting ready to sell real estate, I've been making phone calls. I've been knocking on doors. And so I put action into my daily activity instead of was waiting for everything to be perfect or for me to learn everything. Now, going back to the introvert and the shyness, and it was the hardest thing in the world for me to do, is stick my hand out and say, hi, I'm Lee Garland. I would rather be in a corner somewhere by myself. And one of the things I've done over the years is I've always put myself in positions that stretched me.
Nice.
If you tell me I can't, I will. And I know I had to overcome that shyness. And I was working for Century 21 one time. And while I was there, I was one of their better listing agents. And we were in a conference with about 400 people. And they were marketing this new listing presentation. Well, they pointed me out to, hey, why don't you present this? It's so easy to do this. You can present this, Lee, to the group. Well, there's 400 people in the room. It's a little state event. 400 people in the room, and they wanted me to stand up and present on something I've never seen. I could have said no, but I needed to stretch myself. So I said yes. I stood up in front of that crowd. I literally could not stand. I was shaking so bad. I had to pull a chair up, sit a chair up, and I set it in front of a table. And I did the presentation from right there. I was not going to back down. So as shy as I am, I'm very bold.
Tenacious.
Yeah. So I've always just put myself in positions where I had to stretch myself to get out of my comfort zone. And that's played well for me over the years.
I love it. That's great. Two things you said is like stretching yourself and then working, right? It's like those are the two core things I think in our business, because we're in a people business. And so, if somebody is shy, if we're shy and, I'm a little bit more on the shy side, my friends are like, no, you're not. But, with my close friends, I am not, but I am not the one that's going to walk into a room full of people and know the whole room by the time I leave. I'm going to gravitate and I'll find 3 or 4 people and then I'll have great conversations with them, but I'm not going to work the entire room. And, I envy, our friend Jay, like he's that guy, right? He's not walking into a room and walking out without knowing everybody and everybody knowing him, and I love that about his personality, but, and I try to be more like that, but it is stretching yourself. So I love what you said there, with that. And I feel like, people come into our business, and I did too. Like, I came out of the corporate world, you really don't fully understand what you're getting yourself into when you jump into real estate, especially if you come from a corporate background or, really any kind of structured background, because you get into real estate and, you can have some guidance, but there's no structure other than the structure you create for yourself.
Yeah, I one of the things that I did a couple years ago is I went to Tony Robbins' event. Matter of fact, he was at Build here recently.
Yeah, at our conference.
I went to UPW Tony Robbins event and I don't get into the hoorah and stuff, but I knew that I needed to take my game to a different level. So I went to an event that is considered one of the premier motivational events in the world. And I did walk on fire. I did go all in. And I believe this, whatever you do, you have to go all in. Yeah. If you don't, then what in the heck are you playing ball for anyway? You've got to go all in on whatever you do. And
that's good.
So I always just put myself out there like that.
I love it. So let's talk to the new agent. Now and then I'm going to come back and flip the coin and talk to the experienced about, I want you to kind of talk to the experienced agent. But for the new agent, somebody that's new or somebody that, is struggling, maybe they've been in the business for a year or two and they're struggling to get their business going. Besides, hard work and besides putting yourself out there and, working your sphere, those are kind of, especially working your sphere is what we hear a lot. I mean, what would you say to the new agent that is struggling to really get their business going? What would be a word of advice or wisdom that you would give them to get going? Put yourself out there, for sure.
So when I got in the business, and of course that's been a long time ago, but I believe this still rings true today, is don't turn anything down.
Yeah.
Open houses still work.
Yeah.
Knocking on doors is courageous, but it still works. There's numerous people in every organization out there that knocks on doors that makes a very, very good living. So, but I believe open houses and knocking on doors work. I really think as a new agent, though, if I had to do it over again, I'd join a team.
Okay.
I really believe that joining a team is the best option for a new agent or a struggling agent, and learn the foundations of the business from that team and team leader. And once you've learned that, then go out and do your own thing. But I heard a stat, and I don't know if it's true or not, but stats you can make them say anything you want, right?
Yeah.
But somebody had thrown a stat out that the average team member advances a new agent solo versus team advances about 6 times faster. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes sense because of the structure that comes with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And when I very first started in the real estate business all those years ago, there was an agent that sold Steve and I our house, and he was a top agent in town. And I thought, I went and interviewed with him about starting, like partnering with him. I was like, do you mentor new agents and all? And so he was like, yeah. I don't think he really had a true team or a true system. This was many, many years back, right? But he was like, yeah, and you come on and like you can shadow me, you can do everything. Now, this guy was probably selling way back then 100 homes a year. And he said, you'd be on a 50-50 split. And I was like, what? I did not end up partnering with him because I could not see past that. I just thought that was ludicrous. Of course, I don't know a thing, right, in the real estate space, but I just thought, why would I give you 50% of my money, right? And so I didn't get that. But just to your point, I thought over the years, I thought many times, man, I would have been so much further ahead in a shorter period of time. And had I done that and just spent 1 or 2 years with him, like just learning his systems, learning everything, let alone if, when he leads that, he may pass off to me, but just learning a good core foundational business, it would have paid me tenfold. Instead, you know, like I was at Cola Banker my first several years, and you know, I was the rookie of the year there, so I had a good first year, but I learned, like you started this with, I stumbled forward a lot. You know, it's just, you know, what it was, John Maxwell say, I fell forward a lot. I feel like,
Yeah.
and if I just had gotten over the money piece of it, I would have, failed a lot less in those earlier years, particularly. For sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So, what do you think about, you know, and we're two old veterans, so this is going to be a loaded question, but what do you think about like social media? You know, to me, like it, love it, hate it. Like, I think it's a critical part of our business now. And I think that's something I would tell, you know, our new agent is you've got to be on social media. And not only do you got to be on social media, but you got to be doing lives, you know, like we're live right now. And, you know, I mean, just doing different things live to get yourself out there. You know, what are your thoughts around that?
I think that is one of the most critical aspects of our business today is being found on social media. Whatever your platform is that you're comfortable with, you need to maximize that. You need to leverage that as much as you possibly can. And I'll be honest with you, it is my weak suit. It is the weakest part of my business. And I was actually being coached by somebody the other day on how to improve my social media presence. But I think that, you know, I say a brand new agent. He's second year in the business. His name is Eddie. And Eddie has been cutting reels and he's getting 3, 4, 5,000 views per reel. He's on my team. He's getting these views on reel and he is starting to bring in a ton of sphere of influence business because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I gave him the foundation to get started, but the truth is, I said, hey, you should check out that video stuff over there on Reels. And he did it and he's making a name for himself. And so I think social media is a huge piece to your business. If I was a new agent, I would also look at all the free, when I say the free lead sources, those that are referral only,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, by referral lead sources, not those that you spend thousands of dollars a month
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yeah.
Get signed up for every referral source out there as a new agent or a struggling agent that doesn't cost you anything up front. Because Lord knows you can spend all the money you could ever imagine
Yeah.
on lead sources in this business. So
Yeah.
you got to walk before you run. So
That's
get involved in anything that costs you less money.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that too. So let's flip that coin. Let's talk to the agent that is, you know, been in the business for a while, and maybe they're doing well. Maybe they're doing $8 or $10 million in volume a year, but they want to take it to, you know, 15, 20 million. Like, what advice would you have for that agent to, you know, take it from that, maybe say 5 to 10 million on up to 15 to 20?
So, which is ironically one of the reasons that I joined EXP was lies in this answer. Um, I really believe if you want to take your business to the next level, you've got to leverage your time.
Mm-hmm.
And leverage your time starts with whether you want a team or not doesn't matter, but you need staff, you need assistants to back you up so that you can buy back your time and do what you're best at.
Yeah.
So whether if you need to hire a VA, a virtual assistant, or a transactional coordinator, or a buyer's agent, you need to start looking at how can you leverage your time. But the most important thing is getting around people. And
Oh,
that's one of the reasons I joined EXP is getting around people that have been there, done that 10 times over and collaborating with those people. You just don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want
no.
to be around those that have been there and that, you know, they may have failed 100 times, but all they had to do is succeed once to make it work. And so I really think the people you surround yourself with, and that's I can remember years ago in 2013, I was hanging around people like Jay Kinder, Jeff Willems, Michael Reese. The list just goes on and on and on and on before EXP was even a thing, right? And that network of people opened my eyes.
Yeah.
So I think as a seasoned person wanting to go to that next level, you need to get around people that have been there, and you need to start leveraging your time with assistants and or a team.
Yeah, that's so good. I think, I hear agents all the time talking about their number one in their company, right? And that's great. And that's a great thing to get to. But like you said, who are you surrounding yourself with? Because if you're the smartest one in the room, like who's pouring into you to even help you get better, not only, maybe with your business, but, get better leverage and all. Like I talk about just about every interview, somehow this comes up, but, I talk about Kiyosaki's book all the time, The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Cash Flow Quadrant. And he talks about being that business owner. Agents think we're all business owners, but when you read that book, which I did many years ago, I learned most agents, 99%, they're not business owners. They're really just self-employed people who own a job, right? Because he says, to be a business owner, you've got to have leverage and you got to have systems. If you don't have those two things and you can't leave your business for a year or more and it just run without you, then you really just own a job. And that book, when I read that so many years ago, was such an eye-opener for me. So let me ask you this question. In your journey of, real estate, how important, we're talking about, collaboration and being around people smarter than you, but how important have coaches been in your world? Like, are you an advocate for coaches, and how important do you think that is, for agents, whether they're experienced or whether they're new?
So within my second year of the business, I took a course, a Floyd Wickman sweat hog.
Oh my goodness, you are really dating yourself. And it's sad because I remember that too.
Yeah. So, and for those of you that don't know how old that is, we used the phone book that was this thick. We call it out the phone book. But in essence, that was a coaching type environment. And I will tell you that made a difference in my career. In 2014, I hired my first coach, and my business, that's when my business really started to grow exponentially. Yeah. And I can remember the coach I wanted to hire looked at me and said, "Lee, you're not ready for me. You need to go over to such and such before I'll coach you."
That hurts too when you hear that.
It did.
You're not ready for me.
But it made me determined. And but I have a coach now. I've had a coach since 2000. I've had a full-time coach since 2013 or 14. I forget the exact date. But I've had a full-time coach since then. I will always have a coach in my life at a life somewhere in my life. And so coaching, I think, is huge.
So you waited, if you've only had one for 10 years, you waited for many years before you got your first coach. So if you could unwind that clock, would you have waited, or would you have gotten coaching many years earlier?
I experimented with coaching years before, but I never to the point where I actually hired a coach. And the first real coach I hired, it cost me $1,500 a month.
A month.
One phone call.
Yeah.
One phone call.
A month. Yeah.
And I'm like, I've lost my mind, but it's the best money I've ever spent.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think, if you get the right coach, if you get a good coach, it's the best money you spend. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So let's talk about, you talked about, you were at ReMax. So you were there 16 years. And you were actually a ReMax owner. And so talk a little bit about that. What made you decide 16 years ago to go, join ReMax and open a brokerage?
So I was working for Century 21 prior to ReMax, and at that I was a favorite at that organization. But I wanted to build a team, and I wanted to, I wanted to do, there was just some things that were just not right there. So I was actually going to open up a KW. I went out to Austin, met Gary and all of those. And I was ready to go and changed my mind last minute.
Wow.
And ReMax, the door to ReMax opened up. So I bought a franchise and I can, in 2004, I bought the franchise, and from June to October, in June, I bought the franchise. October, I was the #1 company in the Jackson metro area. And so I loved ReMax, bled red, white, and blue. They very thankful for that organization. And as over the years, though, it just seemed like the management was not where it needed to be, and it became harder and harder to recruit. We had a lot of fees involved.
Mhm.
And then if I wanted to expand, the pet peeve of mine, if I wanted to move into a market a mile down the street or in the next city over or the next state over, I had to buy a brand new franchise
Mhm.
with a long-term commitment. And I'm like, well, I don't want to buy a new franchise every time I want to expand into a different market. And so with EXP, when I looked at EXP, I'm like, okay, EXP1 is one company, and I can be EXP anywhere in the world.
Mhm.
And I don't have to buy a new franchise. I don't have to pay an expansion fee to go and sell real estate or expand my team into all of these different markets. It's one cap. Thought that was pretty cool. And two, the EXP yearly fee of $16,000 was a whole lot less than the new franchise.
Yeah.
And then I had to pay, and so it was being the ability. I loved ReMax, but I needed the ability to expand into different markets. And I trained all of these people over the years at ReMax. And I'm going to get to the main reason why I switched. But when I trained all of these people over the years at ReMax, and I was recruiter of the year for them, broker owner of the year twice for them. And I helped set up other brokerages for them. And what did I get out of it? Nothing.
Wow.
And I
got a plaque that doesn't buy you dinner.
I did. I got a bunch of them. As a matter of fact, somewhere on the internet is a video of me throwing away about 10 boxes of plaques.
Yeah.
And but as I was looking at why should I move, I wanted to expand, but I got tired of training people to be my competition because they eventually left ReMax.
Yeah.
And at EXP, it opened up that door for it. But here's the real reason. All of the people that I consider to be my heroes, the kings and queens of real estate that were at Coldwell Bankers and ReMaxes and other companies, independent companies that were doing 500, 1,000, 2,000 transactions a year, I started watching those people migrate over to EXP. And if there's one thing that I've learned in this business, it's who you hang around that makes a difference.
Yes.
And I didn't want a franchise fee. I didn't want to have to buy a new office every time I turned around. I wanted to be able to expand. But the main reason is I wanted to be around the people who are the movers and shakers in this business. And that's why I moved.
So that's all so good. So the fact to be able to expand without borders, without additional cost, all of that, and that is one thing that I think is limiting, like ReMax is great. Keller Williams is great. I was there 7 years and, they're a great company. But to be able to really, really grow without borders, right, it doesn't have it limits you in that way for sure. It limits you in that way. So you made the move to EXP. Well, it's been almost 2 years now, right? You've been at EXP.
I moved over January 2021.
Awesome. And so since you've made the move, like now you saw what you thought, first of all, you're going to be around a lot of the top agents that have made the move over. And, I think it's in 38 states, we have either the number one or number two agent for that entire state that now is part of EXP. And so just to your point, we have top agents, all around. And then what also I think EXP and Glenn has established so well with EXP is, number one, we're all agent owners in the company, right, through our stock. And so by default, what has happened, and I didn't see this when I moved 5 years ago. First of all, we were such a small company, but what has happened, and one thing I love so much about it, is because we all have vested ownership in this company, the collaboration amongst all of us, whether you're at your level, right, or whether you're at my level, which is just a couple of notches below. I'm just a few houses below 10,000, but it doesn't matter. Like, we all collaborate because we all have an interest in one another's business, because the better we all individually do as agents, the better the company will do. Theoretically, the better the stock will do. No stock anywhere is doing great right now. We realize it. But for those of us who are part of it and earning shares of stock, we're loving it because we're just earning more shares right now. And one day that will turn. But talk about, since you have made the move, so you thought about what was going to be, but what has happened to your business? What has changed? What has, making the move actually help solve, in your business, being a part of it now for the last, 18 months or so?
Yeah. Okay. What's kind of cool is I've been at Century 21, and I've been at ReMax, and I've been at an independent, and I've been to a bunch of conferences and stuff. You were talking about stock. What's pretty cool is at the shareholder summit in Florida for EXP, I sat in a room with a bunch of owner agents, stockholders, and they actually had a meeting where those agents voted on the directions of the company. I never got to do that at any other company.
Yes, so good. Yeah.
So that was kind of cool to see that happen. Joining EXP, I immediately got to expand into a different market. My business is the Jackson Metro, Brandon, Mississippi area. I immediately got to expand to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and every time I turn around, I'm getting a referral for that area. And so it's allowed me to market or expand into different markets. I've actually, through downline organizations and stuff, I've got business, I think, now in 11 states, which I did not have before.
And you didn't even have to pay to do that.
And I didn't even have to pay.
That's the key. Yeah.
So, I've got stock. As a matter of fact, one of my team members, he paid his car off with this stock. And I was like, you should just hold it, but whatever he wants, it's his stock. He can do what he wants to do, right? Yeah. I got this, but just the energy of this organization has given me new energy, because after 20 some odd years, sometimes you get a little bored.
Yeah.
And you need people around you that motivate you.
Yeah.
So and the opportunities are there. And, I think that's the big thing for me, is the expansion aspect.
Yeah. That's so good. And talking about like being bored, I said that when I made the move over to it. It's not that we're bored in our day to day, because, if you're selling a lot of real estate, you're busy, right? But it's just kind of, you get bored sometimes when you've been around the industry for a long time. It's just, it's kind of the same day over and over. and the same people and what have you. But same thing, I said that same thing when we made the move over. And as the company started growing, it was like this whole just new energy that came from all over and still continues 5 years later because the company is growing so fast. So it's like we're just getting such new blood and just new energy all the time. Like it just excites me and just motivates me, on a whole nother level as well.
You know what else excites me, though? You're talking about excites me. I owned a ReMax for 16 years. I was the broker. I was the one in charge. I was the one that had to make all the decisions. And of course, if that was a bad decision, I had to pay for that decision.
Yeah.
And moving to EXP has lifted this huge weight.
Yeah.
I ran the top ReMax in the state, lifted this huge weight off of my shoulder because EXP has these systems in place that you're talking about, and they've learned how to scale the business so that we as individuals don't carry that burden.
Yeah. That is huge. That's huge right there. That's so big. Well, and kind of wrapping up here, is there any last words of wisdom that you would share with our listeners today? The agents that may be listening. What are Lee's final words of wisdom?
So I have a whole bunch of Leeisms.
I like it.
But to me, I think this is something that it's part of having a vision. If no matter where you're at in your business today, if you're looking at your business and operating your business as it is today, that's all you will ever have. You need to look at your business and operate your business where it's going. And because if you're not looking forward and moving forward and operating and thinking as you're already there, I'm not saying go out and spend a ton of money, but mentally you have to be operating as you're already there to where you're going, not as what you're doing today or yesterday, but you have to grow. So go all in, put forth 110% effort and move forward. Don't get stagnant.
That's so good. And you said a couple of key words there, grow your business. First of all, especially newer agents, you got to realize it's a business that you have just started, right? It's not like you got into real estate. You might've got in because you like selling houses, or looking at houses, but you've actually started a business, and then when you say go all in and look forward to grow, like I'm always advocating, you not only are you looking forward to growing your business, but you got to look forward to growing yourself as well. You got to always be growing, always be evolving, being around people that are going to help you grow, right? Your business, but even personally, I just think if we're not, what is that saying? If you're not growing, you're dying, right? And that doesn't mean necessarily in your business. That means personally, as well. So Lee, you are awesome. I appreciate you so much. And I just love being in business and partnership with just people like yourself, because you are one of those people that I look up to that, just help me to elevate my game, and I just appreciate you so much. And I appreciate your time and just sharing your wisdom, with everybody today.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. And I haven't, you asking me to be on this is certainly an honor. And I got tickled at you earlier. You said you're not, when you walk into the room, you're a little bit of an introvert. And the first time I met you, I was like, she's my kind of people. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you. So good. Thanks again. Have a good one.